In the vast emptiness of the cosmos, where stars whispered secrets to those brave enough to listen, Michael Thorne had once been a legend. A decorated war hero from Earth's interstellar conflicts. He'd led humanity's charge against the invading fleets from distant galaxies. His name etched in the annals of the Galactic Federation as the man who turned the tide at the Battle of Epsilon Eridani. But that was before the scars. Before the nightmares that clawed at his soul like black holes devouring light. Now, back on a quiet suburb of New Terra, Earth's rebuilt haven, after the Great Rift War, Michael was a shadow of that hero. He sat alone in his dimly lit study, the holographic displays flickering with unread messages from old comrades, his eyes staring blankly at the rain-slicked window. The war had taken more than his friends. It had stolen his capacity to feel, leaving him emotionally adrift, paralyzed in a sea of indifference. His daughter Elena was the only anchor he had left. At 22, she was a brilliant xenobiologist, fresh from the academy, her enthusiasm for the stars a stark contrast to his weary resignation. She'd inherited his sharp mind and her mother's fiery spirit, but unlike Michael, she saw the universe not as a battlefield, but as a tapestry of wonders waiting to be unraveled. One stormy evening, as thunder rolled like distant artillery fire, Elena burst through the door, her coat dripping with rain, cradling something or someone in her arms. "Dad, you won't believe what I found crashed in the woods behind the lab," she exclaimed, her voice breathless with excitement. Michael barely looked up from his chair, his broad shoulders slumped under the weight of memories. The room smelled of stale coffee and forgotten books, a far cry from the command decks he'd once dominated. "Elena, whatever it is, take it back. I'm not in the mood for one of your experiments." His words were flat, devoid of the warmth that once defined him. But as she unwrapped the bundle, his eyes widened just a fraction, but enough to spark a flicker in the void. There, nestled in a makeshift blanket, was a creature unlike any he'd seen in his years of combat. She was humanoid, yet ethereal, with skin as pale as moonlit snow and hair cascading like silver waterfalls down her back. Pointed ears, reminiscent of ancient earth foxes but delicately elfin, twitched at the sound of his voice, and a bushy tail, soft and white with faint auburn tips, curled protectively around her slender form. She wore remnants of what looked like an elegant, form-fitting suit, sleek and iridescent, hugging her curves in a way that spoke of advanced alien tech, yet torn from whatever catastrophe had befallen her. Her eyes, when they fluttered open, were a piercing violet, holding depths that seemed to pull at the stars themselves. She was beautiful, in a way that transcended species, her presence radiating a gentle vulnerability that stirred something long dormant in Michael's chest. "Dad, she's from Zerathia," Elena whispered, her scientific curiosity bubbling over. "Her ship must have been caught in the warp storm from the ongoing conflicts in the Outer Rim." I scanned her. "She's a scientist, not a soldier. Her name's Lyra. She was fleeing the civil war on her homeworld, and her escape pod malfunctioned. If I hadn't found her, she might not have survived the night." Lyra stirred, her tail brushing against Elena's arm as she tried to sit up. Her movements were graceful, almost feline, but weakened by the crash. She murmured something in a melodic language that the universal translator in Elena's wrist device rendered as, "Thank you, human child." The void was closing in. Her voice was soft, like wind through autumn leaves, carrying an accent that evoked distant worlds. Michael rose slowly, his military-honed instincts kicking in despite himself. He approached cautiously, his tall frame casting a shadow over her. Up close, he could see the faint glow of bioluminescent markings on her skin, subtle patterns that shimmered like constellations. She wasn't just an alien, she was a vision from the myths he'd dismissed as fairy tales during his tours of duty. "Zerathia," he echoed, the name pulling at old intel briefs. "That's deep in contested space. How did you end up here of all places?" Lyra's violet eyes met his, and for a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. There was no fear in her gaze, only a quiet curiosity, as if she were studying him as much as he was her. "My people, we sought refuge. The wars tear at our skies. I am Lyra, seeker of knowledge. Your world, it calls to me in ways I cannot explain." Her words, though translated, carried an undercurrent of something deeper, a pull that made Michael's heart numb for so long skip a beat. Elena beamed, oblivious to the subtle tension. "See, Dad, she's harmless. And think about it, this could be huge for my research." Zerathians are rarely seen outside their quadrant, their biology is fascinating. Adaptive empathy, enhanced senses, she could teach us so much. Michael hesitated, his mind flashing back to the front lines, where alliances with aliens had often ended in betrayal or loss. But looking at Lyra, frail yet resilient, he felt an unfamiliar urge to protect. Fine, he grunted, masking the stirrings within. She can stay until we figure out how to get her home. But keep her out of sight. Last thing we need is Federation agents sniffing around. As the night deepened, Elena helped Lyra to the guest room, chattering about Earth customs and offering a hot meal. Michael watched from the doorway, his arms crossed, but his eyes lingered on Lyra's form. The way her tail swayed with each step, the subtle curve of her hips in that tattered suit, it was distracting, in a way he hadn't felt since before the war. He shook his head, retreating to his study, but sleep evaded him. Instead, he found himself researching Zerathia on his terminal, delving into tales of their elegant society, where scientists like Lyra were revered as bridge builders between worlds. The next morning dawned with a crispness that belied the storm's fury. Michael awoke to unfamiliar sounds, soft laughter echoing from the kitchen. He padded downstairs, his bare feet silent on the wooden floors, and paused at the threshold. There was Elena, demonstrating how to use a coffee maker to Lyra, who watched with wide-eyed fascination. Lyra's ears perked up at his approach, her tail flicking in what seemed like delight. "Michael," she said, her voice warmer now, "your daughter speaks of you as a guardian of stars. Is it true you felled the Draken Armada single-handedly?" He chuckled dryly, a sound rusty from disuse. "Exaggerations. It was a team effort." But as he poured himself a cup, their hands brushed accidentally, sending a jolt through him like static from a plasma rifle, but softer, more inviting. Lyra didn't pull away. Instead, she tilted her head, her violet eyes sparkling. "Your touch, it carries echoes of battles won. Yet beneath, a warmth waits to awaken." Elena's eyes darted between them, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Dad, why don't you show Lyra around? She needs to learn about Earth if she's going to blend in while we repair her communicator." Reluctantly, Michael agreed, leading Lyra out into the garden. The sun filtered through leaves, casting dappled patterns on her pale skin. As they walked, she marveled at simple things: a blooming flower, the hum of bees, her reactions childlike yet profound. On Zerathia, our gardens float in the ether, sustained by crystal energies. Here, everything is grounded, real. She reached out, her fingers grazing his arm intentionally this time. "Like you." He cleared his throat, steering the conversation to safer ground. "Tell me about your work." Elena said, "You're a scientist." Lyra's face lit up, her tail swishing animatedly. "I study the threads of life across galaxies, how species connect, evolve, bond. In the wars, I sought ways to heal divided worlds. But my ship was ambushed by rival factions. I barely escaped." Her voice trembled slightly, revealing vulnerability that tugged at Michael's protective instincts. As days blurred into weeks, Lyra's presence wove itself into their lives. She adapted quickly, her keen mind absorbing Earth's quirks. Michael found himself teaching her mundane things: how to navigate social media, where holographic feeds buzzed with news of ongoing galactic skirmishes, or cooking local dishes, like stir-fried vegetables from the hydroponic markets. One evening, as they prepared dinner, Lyra attempted to chop onions, her tail accidentally knocking over a spice jar. Laughter erupted, first from Elena, then, surprisingly, from Michael. It was a genuine sound, breaking through his emotional walls like a breach in armor. But beneath the surface, tension simmered. Lyra's proximity stirred desires he'd long suppressed. Her scent, a faint mix of wildflowers and ozone, lingered in the air. At night, he'd catch glimpses of her silhouette through the cracked door, her form graceful as she practiced Earth dances Elena had shown her, her body moving with an otherworldly sensuality that made his pulse race. One afternoon, while Elena was at the lab, Michael and Lyra ventured into the nearby forest, the same woods where she'd crashed. "I want to see where I fell," she said softly, her hand slipping into his as they walked. The touch was electric, her skin cool yet inviting. "You humans, your resilience astounds me. After all you've endured, you still reach out." He stopped, turning to face her. The trees framed her like a portrait, her white hair glowing in the dappled light, her curves accentuated by the borrowed earth clothes that clung just a bit too perfectly. "Lyra, I'm not the hero you think. The war broke me. I can't even feel joy anymore." Her violet eyes softened, and she stepped closer, her tail brushing his leg. "Perhaps I can help you remember." Before he could respond, she leaned in, her lips hovering near his, a promise of connection across the stars. The moment hung suspended, charged with possibility. Michael's heart thundered, the paralysis cracking under the weight of her gaze. What began as a simple act of shelter was evolving into something profound, a bridge between worlds where a scarred human and a gentle fox woman from Zerathia might just heal each other. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows through the leaves, Lyra's ears twitched at a distant sound, a faint hum from the underbrush. "My communicator," she murmured, pulling away reluctantly. Together, they unearthed the device from the crash site, its screen flickering to life with messages from her homeworld. But as they activated it, a holographic alert blared: hostile forces approaching. The wars of Zerathia had followed her here. Michael's instincts surged. "We need to get back." Now, grabbing her hand, they raced through the woods, the thrill of danger reigniting the fire in his veins. For the first time in years, he felt alive, not just surviving, but protecting something precious. Back at the house, Elena greeted them with wide eyes. "What's happening?" But before Michael could explain, the sky darkened with the silhouette of an incoming shuttle. Lyra's people? Or enemies? The uncertainty wrapped around them like a nebula, drawing them closer in the face of the unknown. In the days that followed, as they fortified the home with makeshift defenses from Michael's old gear, bonds deepened. Lyra shared stories of Zerathia's floating citadels, where love was celebrated as a cosmic force, unbound by species. "In my culture," she confided one night over flickering candlelight, "connections like this are rare gifts from the stars." Her fingers traced patterns on his arm, sending shivers through him. Michael opened up in return, recounting the horrors of the Rift War, the loss of his squad in a blaze of plasma fire, the guilt that chained him. "I couldn't save them," he admitted, voice cracking. Lyra listened, her empathy a balm, her presence a reminder that humanity's strength lay not just in battle, but in vulnerability. Yet, as affection blossomed, awkward moments arose. Lyra's tail often wrapped around his leg during conversations, a Zerathian gesture of trust that left him flustered. Elena teased him mercilessly, "Dad, you're blushing like a cadet on first deployment." Humor lightened the tension, but the undercurrent of desire grew. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows again, Lyra approached him in the study. "Michael, teach me more about your world." She perched on the edge of his desk, her legs dangling, the fabric of her dress riding up just enough to reveal the soft fur of her tail. The air thickened, charged with unspoken longing. He swallowed hard, his hand reaching out to tuck a strand of her silver hair behind her pointed ear. "Lyra, you're intoxicating." Their lips met then, a kiss that bridged galaxies, gentle at first, then deepening with the passion of two souls starved for connection. But fate, ever the trickster in the cosmos, had more in store. As their embrace intensified, the communicator buzzed with urgency. A rescue fleet from Zerathia was en route, but so was a pursuing armada. The choice loomed: send Lyra home, or fight to keep her by his side. The story was just beginning, a tapestry of love, war and redemption, woven across the stars. As the shadows of impending conflict loomed over their quiet haven on New Terra, Michael couldn't shake the electric hum that Lyra's kiss had ignited within him. It was a spark in the darkness, tentative yet insistent, pulling him from the numb abyss where he'd dwelled for so long. That night, as the rain continued its rhythmic assault on the roof, he lay awake in his bed, the memory of her lips soft, yielding, tasting faintly of stardust and wild honey replaying like a looped holographic feed. The house was silent now, Elena having retired to her room with excited whispers about contacting the Federation for aid, but Michael's thoughts were a storm of their own. How could this alien woman, with her fox-like grace and violet eyes that seemed to pierce straight to his core, begin to thaw what the wars had frozen solid? Morning brought a fragile calm, the kind that precedes greater tempests. Michael rose early, his body moving on autopilot through the routines that had kept him sane, brewing strong coffee, checking perimeter scans from his old military console. But today, the air felt charged, heavy with unspoken promises. He heard her before he saw her, the soft pad of bare feet on the floor, the subtle swish of her tail. Lyra emerged from the guest room, clad in one of Elena's borrowed robes that clung to her lithe form like a second skin, the fabric too thin to hide the elegant curves of her hips or the gentle swell of her breasts. Her white hair fell in tousled waves, framing her pointed ears that twitched with every distant sound, and her pale skin glowed with an inner luminescence, as if she carried a piece of Zerathia's moons within her. "Good morning, Michael," she murmured, her voice a low melody that sent a shiver down his spine. She approached the kitchen counter where he stood, her movements fluid, almost predatory in their sensuality, though her eyes held only warmth. "I dreamed of your world last night, of vast oceans and endless skies. And of you." He poured her a cup, his hand steady despite the rush of heat building in his chest. "Dreams can be deceptive," he replied, his voice rougher than intended, "especially after what you've been through." But as she took the mug, their fingers brushed again, lingering this time, her touch cool yet igniting a fire that spread through his veins. She didn't pull away. Instead, she stepped closer, her tail curling lazily around his calf in that instinctive Zerathian way, a gesture of intimacy that made his breath hitch. Elena's voice broke the moment as she bounded down the stairs, oblivious to the tension coiling in the air. "Dad, Lyra, I've got updates. The communicators linked to the Federation network now rescue from Zerathia could be here in days, but we have to evade those pursuers. I've set up cloaking fields around the property." She grabbed a piece of fruit, her energy a whirlwind. "In the meantime, Lyra, want to learn more about Earth tech? Dad's the expert on survival gear." Michael nodded, grateful for the distraction, but as the day unfolded, the suspense built like a gathering warp storm. They spent hours in his workshop, a converted garage filled with relics from his war days: plasma shields, holographic projectors, and emergency rations. Lyra watched him intently as he demonstrated how to calibrate a personal deflector, her violet eyes tracing the lines of his strong arms, scarred from battles long past. "Your hands," she said softly, reaching out to trace a faded burn mark on his forearm. "They've wielded destruction, yet they create safety now. It's arousing in a way my people admire." The word hung between them, laden with implication. Michael's pulse quickened, his mind flashing to forbidden thoughts, the way her body might feel pressed against his, her tail wrapping around him in passion rather than casual affection. He cleared his throat, focusing on the device. "It's just practical. In the Rift War, we learned to improvise or die." But as he leaned over to adjust a dial, their bodies brushed, her breast grazing his arm through the thin robe. The contact was electric, her skin warm now, flushed perhaps from the room's heat or something more. She didn't move away. Instead, she inhaled sharply, her ears flattening slightly in what he was beginning to recognize as arousal among her kind. Elena popped in occasionally, sharing laughs over Lyra's attempts to pronounce Earth slang. "What is this Netflix and chill your daughter mentions?" Lyra asked innocently, tilting her head, her tail flicking playfully. Michael nearly choked on his water, the innocuous question laced with unintended eroticism. But as the afternoon waned, Elena excused herself for a virtual meeting with her lab colleagues, leaving Michael and Lyra alone once more. The house felt smaller, the air thicker, as if the walls themselves conspired to draw them closer. They migrated to the living room, where a large window overlooked the forest, now bathed in the golden hues of sunset. Lyra settled on the couch, her legs tucked beneath her, the robe parting slightly to reveal the smooth expanse of her thigh. "Tell me more about your losses," she urged gently, her voice a soothing caress. "On Zerathia, we believe sharing pain strengthens bonds." Michael sat beside her, closer than necessary, the cushion dipping under his weight. He spoke haltingly at first, of the squad he'd led into the maw of an enemy dreadnought, how the explosions had lit the void like dying stars, claiming friends who'd been like brothers. As he talked, her hand found his knee, squeezing reassuringly, her touch sending tendrils of desire curling through him. "You've carried this alone for too long," she whispered, shifting nearer until their thighs touched, her tail draping over his lap like a silken rope. The suspense of the moment was palpable, a taut string ready to snap. Michael's hand moved of its own accord, covering hers, then sliding up her arm, feeling the soft down of faint fur along her skin, a remnant of her fox-like heritage that made her all the more exotic, alluring. "Lyra," he breathed, his voice low and gravelly, "you're awakening things in me I thought were dead." Her violet eyes darkened with desire, pupils dilating as she leaned in, her breath mingling with his. The kiss that followed was deeper than before, hungry, her lips parting to invite him in. She tasted of mystery and promise, her tongue tentative at first, then bold, exploring with a curiosity that matched her scientific mind. As their embrace intensified, her hands roamed, tracing the contours of his chest through his shirt, feeling the hard planes of muscle forged in war. Michael's fingers tangled in her white hair, gently tugging her pointed ears, eliciting a soft moan from her that vibrated against his mouth. Her tail tightened around his waist, pulling him closer, the sensation both strange and intoxicating. The robe slipped from her shoulder, revealing the curve of her breast, pale and perfect, her nipple hardening under the cool air. He broke the kiss to trail his lips down her neck, savoring the salt of her skin, the way she arched into him with a gasp. But even in this haze of erotic discovery, the outside world intruded subtly, building the tension. The communicator on the table beeped intermittently, warnings of approaching signals from the void, perhaps scouts from the pursuing armada. Lyra pulled back slightly, her chest heaving, eyes glazed with passion. "We shouldn't, not with danger so near," she murmured, though her body betrayed her words, pressing against him. Michael's grip tightened on her hip, his arousal evident, straining against the confines of his clothes. "Danger's always been my shadow," he replied, his voice husky. "But you're the light breaking through." He captured her lips again, more urgently, his hand sliding beneath the robe to cup her breast, thumb circling the sensitive peak. She whimpered, her tail thrashing in delight, wrapping around his thigh now, the furred tip brushing teasingly against his growing hardness. The erotic dance continued, slow and suspenseful, each touch a revelation. Lyra's fingers fumbled with his shirt buttons, exposing his scarred torso, her nails sharp yet gentle, raking lightly down his chest, drawing a groan from deep within him. She marveled at his human form, so different from the sleek, ethereal builds of Zerathian males. "You're so solid," she purred, her hand venturing lower, palming him through his pants, her touch exploratory and bold. The friction was exquisite torture, building the suspense to a fever pitch. Yet, as the sun dipped fully below the horizon, casting the room in twilight shadows, a louder alert from the communicator shattered the intimacy. "Incoming vessel detected, hostile signature," the automated voice announced. Michael's head snapped up, the warrior in him resurfacing amidst the erotic fog. Lyra's ears perked, her body tensing, but her hand lingered, a promise of more to come. "We have to prepare," he said, regret lacing his words, though the fire in his eyes burned brighter than ever. The interruption was cruel, leaving them both aching, the erotic tension unresolved, hanging like a nebula on the brink of collapse. But in that moment, Michael realized the paralysis was cracking further. Lyra wasn't just a visitor, she was becoming his salvation, one stolen touch at a time. As they rose to face the threat, her robe readjusted, but her gaze locked on his with unspoken hunger, the night promised more than just survival. The stars outside twinkled knowingly, as if the universe itself conspired for their union amidst the chaos. The alert's shrill tone echoed through the room like a siren's wail from the void, shattering the fragile cocoon of desire that had enveloped them. Michael's body still thrummed with the heat of Lyra's touch, her scent clinging to him like a nebula's glow, but the warrior within surged forward, shoving the ache of unfinished passion to the back of his mind. He disentangled himself gently but firmly, his hands lingering on her waist for a heartbeat longer than necessary, feeling the rapid rise and fall of her breath. "Stay here," he commanded, his voice a low growl honed by years of command decks and firefights. "I'll check the perimeter scans." Lyra's violet eyes flashed with a mix of frustration and concern, her tail uncoiling from his thigh with a reluctant flick. "Michael, no, let me help. My people are the ones bringing this storm." She adjusted her robe with graceful haste, the fabric whispering against her skin, but there was a steel in her posture now, a reminder that she was no fragile refugee, but a scientist who'd navigated the treacherous currents of interstellar war. He shook his head, already moving toward the console in the corner, his bare chest heaving as he pulled on a tactical vest from his nearby gear rack. The holographic display sprang to life under his fingers, projecting a swirling map of the surrounding sector, New Terra's atmosphere dotted with incoming signatures. One vessel, sleek and predatory, its hull markings pulsing with the crimson runes of Zerathia's rival faction, the Dravex Enclave. They were no mere scouts, this was a hunter-killer ship, armed with phase disruptors and cloaking fields that shimmered like ghosts in the scan. "They're locking onto our coordinates," he muttered, adrenaline flooding his system, sharpening his senses to a razor's edge. The thrill of impending battle coursed through him, a familiar drug that drowned out the emotional fog. But this time, it carried an undercurrent of fierce protectiveness for Elena, for his home, and now, inescapably, for Lyra. Outside, the night sky cracked open with a thunderous roar as the enemy ship pierced the cloud cover, its engines venting plasma trails that lit the forest like falling comets. The ground trembled faintly, leaves rustling in an unnatural wind. Lyra joined him at the console, her pointed ears flattening against her head as she deciphered the runes on the scan. The Enclave, they must have traced my escape pod's quantum signature. They're led by Commander Vexa, a fanatic who sees my research as heresy bridging worlds instead of conquering them. Her voice trembled not with fear, but with a quiet rage that made her even more captivating, her pale skin flushing with the bioluminescent glow of her species' stress response. Michael's jaw tightened. Then we make them regret the chase. He activated the house's defensive grid relics from his war days, jury rigged into the property's systems. Automated turrets hidden in the garden, energy barriers that hummed to life with a low buzz. But he knew it wouldn't be enough against a full assault. Grabbing a pulse rifle from the wall mount, he slung it over his shoulder, the weapon's weight a comforting anchor. Elena, he called up the stairs. Get to the safe room Protocol Alpha. His daughter emerged, wide-eyed but composed, clutching her own scanner. Dad, I've alerted the Federation outpost. Reinforcements in 20 minutes, but that ship's jamming comms now. She glanced at Lyra, a spark of curiosity cutting through the tension. What's the Enclave after, exactly? Your knowledge? Lyra nodded, her tail lashing. More than that, I carry encrypted data, on a neural implant, blueprints for a Unity engine. A device that could end the wars by linking minds across species. They want to weaponize it, turn harmony into domination. The revelation hung in the air, surprising even Michael. He'd pegged her as a brilliant mind, but this? She was a key to peace, hunted like prey across the stars. The first strike came without warning, a lance of energy slicing through the night, slamming into the barrier with a deafening crackle. The house shook, lights flickering as power surged. Michael shoved Lyra behind him instinctively, his body shielding hers as debris rained from the ceiling. Out the back into the woods. He barked, leading them through the kitchen door. The forest welcomed them like an old ally, dense underbrush swallowing their forms as they ran. Branches whipped at their faces, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and ozone from the ship's weapons. Behind them, the Enclave vessel hovered, its spotlights piercing the canopy like accusatory fingers. Ground troops deployed, armored figures in sleek exosuits, their forms humanoid but augmented with mechanical tails and glowing visors, a twisted mirror of Lyra's graceful heritage. Blaster fire erupted, bolts sizzling past Michael's ear, igniting a bush in a burst of flames. He spun, rifle raised, and fired back a precise shot that felled the lead pursuer, the alien crumpling with a mechanical whine. The thrill surged through him, dramatic and visceral. This was the climax he'd avoided for years, the raw edge of survival where heroes were forged or broken. Lyra wasn't idle. Drawing a concealed energy dagger from her tattered suit, hidden in a thigh holster that accentuated her curves even in flight, she parried an incoming drone that buzzed toward them like a vengeful insect. The blade hummed, slicing through the machine in a shower of sparks. They won't take me alive, she declared, her voice a thrilling mix of defiance and vulnerability, her white hair whipping in the wind as she moved with feline agility. Elena, panting beside them, activated a portable jammer from her pack. I've got a surprise, hacked their comms loop. Listen. Static crackled from her device, revealing fragmented voices. Target acquired human interference, neutralized the Guardian. Michael's blood ran cold, then hot with fury. They weren't just after Lyra, they saw him as a threat, a human hero who'd meddled in their affairs. The chase intensified, thrilling in its relentlessness. They darted through a ravine, water splashing underfoot, the Enclave troops closing in with mechanical precision. One leaped from a tree branch, landing atop Michael in a tangle of limbs and armor. They rolled in the mud, fists flying, his human strength, raw and unyielding, against the alien's augmented speed. He headbutted the visor, cracking it, then drove his knee into the suit's power core. The trooper spasmed, circuits frying, but not before grazing Michael's side with a blade, drawing a line of fire across his ribs. Lyra cried out, her empathy flaring. She felt his pain as her own, a curious bond her species formed in moments of intensity. Michael, she rushed to him, her hands glowing faintly as she pressed them to the wound, channeling some innate healing energy that knit the flesh just enough to staunch the blood. The sensation was surprising, a warm tingle that bordered on ecstasy amidst the chaos, rekindling the erotic spark from earlier even as danger pressed. But the true climax built as they reached a clearing, the crash site of Lyra's pod, now a makeshift arena under the stars. The Enclave ship descended fully, its ramp lowering to reveal Commander Vexa herself, a towering Zerathian with obsidian hair and eyes like burning coals, her form clad in ornate armor that hugged her powerful physique. Lyra Vos, she boomed, her voice amplified, dripping with dramatic scorn. You flee like a kit from the den, consorting with these primitive humans. Hand over the implant and perhaps I'll spare your pet. Michael stepped forward, rifle trained, blood trickling down his side, his stance unyielding. The thrill of the standoff was electric, curiosity gnawing at him what drove this fanatic. But Lyra surprised them all. Vexa's sister, she revealed, her words dropping like a bombshell, you chase your own blood for power. Our mother's legacy was unity, not this madness. The commander's face twisted in shock, a surprising vulnerability cracking her facade. Lies, you abandoned us! The revelation hung, curious and dramatic sisters divided by war, one seeking peace, the other conquest. It humanized the enemy, yet heightened the stakes. In that frozen moment, Michael acted. He fired a flare from his rifle, not at Vexa, but at the ship's underbelly, a weak point he'd spotted on the scans. The explosion rocked the vessel, flames erupting in a thrilling cascade. Troops scattered, chaos reigning as the ship listed dangerously. Vexa lunged, her own dagger flashing, but Lyra met her halfway, the sisters clashing in a whirlwind of strikes and parries, elegant, deadly, a dance of betrayal and blood ties. Michael joined the fray, covering Elena as she hacked the ship's systems remotely. Blasts flew, the air alive with energy arcs and shouts. He took down 2 more troops, his movements a blur of human tenacity, proving once again why aliens whispered of Earth's warriors with awe. But a stray bolt grazed Lyra's shoulder, sending her stumbling. Rage boiled in Michael. A dramatic surge, he charged Vexa, tackling her to the ground in a grapple that shook the earth. They wrestled, her strength augmented but his will unbreakable. You won't touch her, he roared, pinning her arm, the thrill of victory teetering on the edge. Vexa's eyes widened in surprise at his ferocity, a human, scarred and mortal, overpowering a Zerathian elite. What are you? She gasped. Humanity, he growled. Fuck yeah. Elena sealed the deal, overriding the ship's core engines whining as it began an emergency ascent, dragging Vexa and her remaining forces back aboard in a hasty retreat. The vessel vanished into the night sky, leaving smoking craters and silence in its wake. Panting, Michael helped Lyra up, their eyes locking in a moment of raw connection. The climax had passed, but the surprises lingered, familial secrets, unspoken bonds, and a love forged in fire. As Federation lights approached on the horizon, the night pulsed with possibility, the curious pull between them stronger than ever, thrilling in its uncertainty. What other secrets did Lyra hold? And how far would Michael go to protect this bridge between worlds? The stars seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the next twist in their cosmic tale. As the Federation shuttles descended like guardian angels from the starry vault, their landing lights cutting through the smoke-hazed clearing, Michael felt the adrenaline ebb, leaving a hollow ache in its wake. His side throbbed from the graze, a sharp reminder of mortality, but it was nothing compared to the whirlwind in his chest, the raw, unfiltered emotions Lyra had unleashed. She leaned against him now, her slender form trembling slightly from the wound on her shoulder, her white hair matted with dirt and leaves, yet she managed a faint smile that lit her violet eyes like distant supernovas. Elena hovered nearby, her scanner beeping triumphantly as she confirmed the Enclave's retreat, but her gaze darted between her father and the alien woman with a mix of relief and something sharper, more inquisitive. The lead shuttle touched down with a hydraulic hiss, its ramp unfolding to reveal a squad of Federation officers in crisp uniforms, their insignias gleaming under the floodlights. Captain Reyes, a stern woman with a cybernetic eye that whirred as it scanned the scene, stepped forward first. Thorne! Michael Thorne, we received the distress ping. What in the void happened here? Looks like you hosted a private war zone. Her tone was all business, but there was an undercurrent of respect, Michael's name still carried weight in these circles, a ghost from the Rift campaigns. Michael straightened, wincing as he did, his arm instinctively tightening around Lyra's waist to support her, or was it to keep her close? Enclave hunters from Zerathia Quadrant. They tracked her, he nodded toward Lyra, for tech that could change everything. We held them off. The words came out clipped, dramatic in their understatement, but inside, his mind raced Vexa's revelation as Lyra's sister hung over them like a storm cloud, a familial bomb that could detonate at any moment. What if the Enclave returned with reinforcements? What if Lyra's secrets pulled them all into a larger galactic fray? Ray's cyber eye zoomed in on Lyra, her tail curling protectively around Michael's leg in a gesture that was becoming all too familiar and now awkwardly public. A Zerathian, refugee status? The captain's brow furrowed, her team fanning out to secure the perimeter, their boots crunching over debris. Lyra met her gaze steadily, but Michael felt the subtle tension in her body, the way her pointed ears flicked back in unease. "I am Lyra Voss, seeker of unity," she replied, her voice melodic yet edged with defiance. "The data I carry is for peace, not plunder. But my pursuers see it differently." Elena chimed in, ever the eager intermediary captain. "She's got a neural implant with blueprints for a mind-linking engine. It's revolutionary, could end interspecies conflicts." Her enthusiasm bubbled over, but as she spoke, she noticed Lyra's tail still wrapped around her father's thigh, a possessive coil that made Michael's face heat up under the floodlights. He shifted uncomfortably, trying to disentangle without drawing attention, but the furred appendage held fast, as if it had a mind of its own. Ray's raised an eyebrow, her lips twitching in what might have been amusement. "Unity, huh? Looks like it's already working wonders." The awkwardness escalated as medics approached, one of them a young ensign with a portable scanner kneeling to examine Lyra's shoulder. "Ma'am, this bioluminescent response is fascinating. Zerathian physiology." He poked gently, eliciting a soft hiss from her, and in her discomfort, her tail tightened further around Michael's leg, brushing perilously close to areas that made him stiffen in more ways than one. Elena snorted, covering her mouth with her hand. "Dad, you look like you're being claimed by a cosmic koala. Need a crowbar?" Michael shot her a glare, his cheeks burning despite the cool night air, but the humor in her eyes diffused some of the drama building in his chest. "Not funny, kid," he muttered, though a reluctant chuckle escaped him. Lyra, catching the exchange, tilted her head curiously, her violet eyes wide. "Is this a human mating ritual?" On Zerathia, tail entwining signifies deep affection. The ensign fumbled his scanner, dropping it into the mud with a splat, while Ray's cleared her throat loudly, her cyber eye whirring as if recording the moment for posterity. The group moved toward the shuttle for a proper debrief, the drama heightening with each step as Ray's grilled them on details. "Vexa your sister?" She pressed Lyra, who nodded solemnly, her hand finding Michael's in the shadows, squeezing it for support. The revelation spilled out in hushed tones: twin sisters, torn apart by ideology, Vexa embracing the Enclave's conquest doctrine, while Lyra fled with their mother's forbidden research. Michael's heart clenched at the pain in her voice, the way her ears drooped like wilted petals. He wanted to pull her close, shield her from the universe's cruelties, but with the officers watching and Elena's knowing smirks, the situation teetered on the edge of absurdity. Inside the shuttle's med bay, the awkwardness peaked during the examinations. Michael sat on a cot, his shirt off as a medic applied a regenerative gel to his side, the cool substance tingling against his scars. Lyra was across from him, her robe partially slipped for the ensign to treat her shoulder, revealing the elegant sweep of her collarbone and the faint glow of her skin. Their eyes met across the room, the pull between them electric, dramatic in its intensity, memories of their earlier kisses flashing like warp jumps. But then Elena plopped down beside him, munching on a ration bar she'd snagged. "So, Dad, when were you planning to tell me about the interstellar romance? I mean, I bring home a stray alien, and suddenly you're all tangled tales and smoldering looks. It's like a bad holo novel." He groaned, rubbing his temples. Elena, timing. But she grinned, undeterred. "Come on, it's hilarious. Remember when I was a kid and you scared off my first date with your war stories? Now look at you, Mr. Hero, blushing over a fox lady's fluff." The medic stifled a laugh, pretending to focus on his instruments, while Lyra's ears perked up from her cot. "Blushing. Is this a sign of arousal in humans? She asked innocently, her tail swishing in genuine curiosity, sending the ensign into a coughing fit. Reyes interrupted the budding comedy with a dramatic update, her hologram projector flickering to life. We've got incoming chatter. The Enclave's armada is mobilizing near the Zerathian border. If that implant's as vital as you say, Ms. Vuss, we need to extract and secure it immediately. The room sobered, the humor evaporating like mist under a sun, replaced by a heightened sense of peril. Lyra's face paled, her hand clutching the edge of the cot. Extraction. It's woven into my neural pathways. Removing it could alter me. The implication hung heavy: loss of memories, emotions, perhaps even her budding connection with Michael. He stood abruptly, ignoring the medic's protests, crossing to her side in 2 strides. No one's touching that implant without your say, he declared, his voice a thunderous vow that echoed the drama of old battle cries. The officers exchanged glances, but Reyes nodded slowly. Fine, but we escort you to a secure facility. Thorne, you're coming too. Your expertise could be key. As the shuttle lifted off, banking toward the city lights of New Terra's capital, the awkward tension simmered beneath the surface. Lyra leaned her head on Michael's shoulder, her tail sneaking around his waist again, this time with deliberate affection. Elena watched from across the aisle, her expression a mix of amusement and concern. Just promise me, if this turns into a family affair, no weird alien holidays involving tail-pulling contests, she quipped, lightening the mood just enough to keep the drama from overwhelming them. But as stars streaked past the viewports, Michael's mind raced with questions. Could he protect Lyra from her own kin? What if the Federation demanded the implant, forcing a choice between duty and desire? The awkward intimacies, tales, touches, teasing wove into the larger tapestry of threat, heightening every glance, every whisper. Humor flickered in the shadows, a brief respite, like Elena's deadpan commentary, when Lyra misunderstood a human idiom: break a leg. But why would one wish harm before battle? The laughter that followed was genuine, a balm against the storm, but the drama pressed on, inexorable as gravity. In the secure facility, a gleaming bunker beneath the capital's spires, they were ushered into quarters that felt more like a luxury suite than a safe house, complete with holographic windows simulating Zerathia's floating gardens. As the door sealed behind them, isolating them from the officers' prying eyes, the awkwardness resurfaced in full force. Michael paced, his wound bandaged but his thoughts tangled. Lyra approached, her robe discarded for a simple tunic that hugged her curves, her scent filling the room like an intoxicating nebula. Michael, your daughter, she jests, but I sense her worry. Have I complicated your bond? He stopped, facing her, the drama in his eyes mirroring the stars outside. Complicated? Yeah, but in the best way. He reached out, cupping her cheek, feeling the soft fur at her ear. But just then, Elena's voice crackled over the intercom, forgotten in her haste to explore the facility's lab. Hey guys, the walls here are thin, really thin. Just saying, keep it PG if you don't want an audience. Michael's hand froze, Lyra's ears flushing pink, and they both dissolved into laughter, the humor cutting through the tension like a laser through fog. Yet, as night deepened in the bunker, the drama escalated with a urgent calm from Reyes. We've intercepted a message: Vixess is rallying allies. She's coming for you, Lyra. And she knows about Thorne. The words sent a chill through the room, heightening the stakes to a fever pitch. Michael pulled Lyra close, their bodies fitting together with an ease that belied the chaos, but awkward questions loomed: how to face a sister-turned-enemy. And in the midst of it all, Elena's holographic form popped in unannounced, catching them in the embrace. Whoa, timing! But seriously, Dad, if we're doing family therapy across galaxies, count me in for the popcorn. The blend of drama, awkward fumblings, and light-hearted jabs forged their resolve, turning vulnerability into strength. As plans formed, defenses, alliances, escapes, the night thrummed with anticipation, every awkward moment a step closer to something profound, humorous mishaps, the glue holding their fragile world together against the encroaching void. As the intercom clicked off with Elena's teasing echo fading into the bunker's hum, Michael felt the weight of the moment settle over them like a warm nebula cloud, intimate, enclosing, charged with the unspoken. Lyra's body remained pressed against his, her curves fitting seamlessly into the hard lines of his frame, her tail still looped around his waist in that instinctive embrace that spoke volumes without words. The facility's soft lighting cast gentle shadows across her pale skin, highlighting the faint bioluminescent patterns that pulsed faintly with her quickened breath. Ray's warning about Vex's armada lingered in the air, heightening the urgency. But in this sealed room, time seemed to stretch, allowing desire to bloom amidst the storm. He turned to face her fully, his hands sliding to her hips, thumbs tracing the edge of her tunic, where it met the soft fur at the base of her tail. "Lyra," he murmured, his voice a low rumble that vibrated between them. "With everything coming at us, I don't want to waste a single second." Her violet eyes met his, darkening with a shared hunger, her pointed ears tilting forward in eager anticipation. She rose on her toes, closing the distance, her lips brushing his in a kiss that started tender but quickly deepened, tongues exploring with a gentle urgency that mirrored the galaxy's vast, swirling passions. The drama of the day, the chase, the revelations, the looming threat fueled their connection, making every touch feel like a defiance against the chaos. Michael's fingers ventured under her tunic, skimming the smooth expanse of her back, feeling the subtle ridges where her spine met her tail, a unique texture that sent a thrill through him. She arched into his touch, a soft sigh escaping her as her hands roamed his chest, nails grazing lightly over his bandages, careful yet insistent. The tunic slipped from her shoulders with a whisper of fabric, revealing the elegant swell of her form, her skin glowing warmer now, the bioluminescence responding to her arousal like stars awakening in the night sky. They moved toward the bunk in a tangle of limbs, the awkward humor from moments ago, dissolving into something more profound, more elemental. Lyra's tail unwound from his waist only to trail teasingly up his thigh, eliciting a quiet groan from him as he laid her down gently, his body hovering over hers. "You're beautiful," he whispered, his lips trailing down her neck, savoring the salty sweet taste of her, the way her pulse fluttered under his mouth. She responded with a murmur in her native tongue, the melodic sounds translating through the implant as words of encouragement, her legs parting to draw him closer, her body inviting him in with a natural grace that felt both alien and perfectly attuned. The intimacy unfolded slowly at first, a dance of discovery where human strength met Zerathian elegance. Michael's hands explored her curves, cupping and caressing with reverence, feeling her respond with shivers and soft gasps that built the tension like a crescendo in a symphony. Her tail wrapped around his leg again, pulling him nearer, the furred tip brushing sensitive spots that made his breath hitch. She guided him with gentle touches, her fingers weaving through his hair, down his back, urging him on as their bodies aligned. When they finally connected, it was a moment of profound unity, a bridging of worlds where differences melted away in shared pleasure. Sensations washed over them in waves, the warmth of her enveloping him, the subtle vibrations from her bioluminescent glow syncing with their rhythm, heightening every movement. Lyra's eyes fluttered shut, her ears flattening in bliss as she moved with him, her hips rising to meet his in a harmonious flow. Michael's world narrowed to her, the scent of wildflowers and ozone filling his senses, the soft sounds she made like music from distant planets. He lost himself in the give and take, his scarred hands gentle on her hips, her tail coiling tighter in response, adding an exotic layer to their union that made it all the more intoxicating. Time blurred as they explored each other, whispers of affection mingling with the quiet intensity of their connection. "Michael, my guardian," she breathed, her voice husky, her body arching in delight as waves of pleasure built between them. He responded with deeper movements, his own release building like a star on the verge of nova, but he held back, savoring her reactions, wanting to prolong the moment where war's scars faded into the background. Her hands clutched his shoulders, nails digging in just enough to ground him, her tail thrashing gently in ecstasy. As the peak approached, their pace quickened, breaths sinking in ragged harmony. Lyra's glow intensified, bathing them in a soft violet light that pulsed with their rhythm, a visual echo of the emotions surging through them. Michael's name fell from her lips in a crescendo, her body tensing, and then releasing in a shuddering wave that pulled him over the edge with her. He followed moments later, a deep groan escaping as fulfillment washed over him, their forms entwined in a tangle of limbs and tail, hearts pounding in unison. They collapsed together, spent and sated, her head resting on his chest as his arms encircled her. The afterglow lingered, a peaceful contrast to the external threats, her tail draping lazily over his waist like a contented sigh. Michael traced patterns on her back, feeling the faint hum of her bioluminescence fade to a gentle shimmer. That was incredible, he admitted softly, a smile tugging at his lips despite the exhaustion. Lyra lifted her head, her violet eyes sparkling with affection. In my culture, such bonds strengthen us against the void. You've awakened something in me too. But even in this intimate sanctuary, the drama crept back in subtly, a soft beep from the console in the corner, a reminder from Ray's about strategy sessions at dawn. Lyra's ears perked up, but she nestled closer, unwilling to let the moment end. Let the stars wait a little longer, she whispered, her hand trailing down his arm in a lingering caress. Michael nodded, pulling her tighter, the warmth of their connection a shield against the coming battles. As they lay there, conversations turned to whispers about the future, how her implant could forge peace, how his experience could protect it. The awkwardness of earlier seemed distant now, replaced by a deeper understanding. Elena's voice didn't interrupt again, giving them space, but Michael knew she'd have questions come morning, perhaps with more of her signature humor to lighten the load. Yet, beneath the serenity, curiosity stirred. What if Vex's pursuit uncovered more family secrets? Could their newfound bond withstand the Armada's wrath? Lyra's fingers intertwined with his, her tail giving a playful flick, grounding him in the present. For now, in this hidden haven, they were just two souls connected across the cosmos, bodies and hearts aligned in a quiet rebellion against the wars that sought to divide them. The night deepened, their breaths evening out into sleep, but the intimacy they'd shared lingered like a promise, a spark that could ignite galaxies. Tomorrow would bring plans, alliances, perhaps even confrontations, but tonight, in each other's arms, they found strength in vulnerability, love in the midst of uncertainty. The bunker hummed softly around them, a temporary cocoon, as dreams wove visions of unity not just for worlds, but for their entwined fates. As dawn's simulated light filtered through the holographic windows of their bunker quarters, casting a soft, ethereal glow over the tangled sheets, Michael stirred from a sleep deeper than any he'd known since the war's end. Lyra's form nestled against him, her white hair splayed like a silver halo across his chest, her tail draped possessively over his hip in a loose coil that rose and fell with her gentle breathing. The intimacy of the night lingered in his muscles, a pleasant ache that blended with the faint throb of his bandaged wound, reminding him that vulnerability could be a strength rather than a fracture. For the first time in years, the nightmares had stayed at bay, replaced by fragmented dreams of floating gardens and violet eyes that promised peace amid the stars. He watched her for a moment, tracing the curve of her pointed ear with his gaze, marveling at how this alien woman had slipped past his defenses, awakening parts of him he'd buried under layers of grief and guilt. The console's soft chime broke the tranquility, a subtle alert that pulled him fully awake. Careful not to disturb her, he eased out of the bunk, his bare feet padding silently across the cool floor. The screen flickered with incoming data from Ray's routine scans of the sector, confirmations that the Enclave's armada was holding position at the border, biding their time. But as he scrolled through the logs, a new file caught his eye, an encrypted burst from Lyra's implant, auto-synced during the night. Curiosity tugged at him. She'd mentioned the device interfaced with her neural pathways, but in their closeness, had it drawn from him too? He hesitated, glancing back at her sleeping form, her pale skin still faintly luminous from their shared passion. It felt like an invasion, yet the pull was irresistible, the same instinct that had driven him to protect her from the start. With a quiet command, he unlocked the file, expecting schematics of the Unity engine or tactical insights into Zerathian tech. Instead, a holographic projection bloomed from the console, enveloping the room in a swirl of colors and sounds that made his heart stutter. Images cascaded like a river of memories, not his own vast, crystalline halls on Zerathia, scientists in flowing robes debating the ethics of mind linking across species. Then, a face Lyra's, but younger, her ears less pronounced, her tail a fluffy nub as she played in zero-gravity chambers. The scene shifted to chaos, alarms blaring, ships exploding in the void, the rift war spilling into Zerathian space. Michael's breath caught, he recognized the formations, the plasma trails they were from his campaigns, the battles where he'd lost everything. But then the projection deepened, pulling him in as if the implant's empathy had bridged their minds even in sleep. He saw through Lyra's eyes now, a child's perspective, hiding in an escape pod as her world shattered, her mother's voice urgent over the comms. Lyra, Vexa, remember the unity. Find the guardian who bridges the divide. The pod launched, hurtling through warp space, but not before glimpsing the attacker, a human vessel, its insignia blazing, the USS Vanguard, Michael's command ship during the Epsilon siege. Horror gripped him. He'd ordered that strike, believing it a hostile Enclave outpost. The pod tumbled, damaged, crashing on a remote moon where rescuers found only one survivor, Lyra. Vexa, lost, presumed dead. The twist hit like a supernova, exploding the foundations of everything he'd believed. The projection flickered to a lab log, dated years later. Zerathian scientists, desperate to preserve their lineage amid the wars, had experimented with cloning and neural splitting. Lyra and Vexa weren't just sisters, they were the same entity, divided in a radical procedure to safeguard the Unity engine's data. One half carried the blueprints, the other the activation key, separated to prevent total capture. But the split had fractured their psyche, Lyra embodying empathy and peace, Vexa aggression and conquest. The Enclave hadn't hunted Lyra out of malice, Vexa sought reunion, to merge and complete their shared self, weaponizing the engine only as a distorted means to end the pain of division. Michael staggered back, the hologram washing over him, revealing more. Their intimacy had triggered a latent protocol in the implant, syncing their minds and unlocking suppressed memories. In the depths of his subconscious, buried under trauma, he saw flashes of his own past intersecting. The Vanguard's strike hadn't been random. Intelligence had flagged the lab as a weapons facility, but it was a setup, manipulated by a rogue Federation faction profiting from prolonged war. And the Guardian her mother mentioned, it was him. Michael had anonymously funded refugee aid post-battle, his guilt manifesting in secret donations that inadvertently saved young Lyra's life after the crash. She'd been drawn to Earth, to him, by an subconscious pull, the Unity engine's prototype weaving fates across the stars. Lyra stirred then, her violet eyes opening wide as the projection enveloped her too, the empathy bond flooding her with the revelations. Michael, she whispered, sitting up, the sheet pooling around her waist, exposing the graceful lines of her form that he'd worshipped hours before. But her expression crumpled as the truths cascaded: the split, the loss, the ironic twist that the man who'd unknowingly orphaned her halves was now her lover, her protector. Tears shimmered in her eyes, not of betrayal, but of profound sorrow and wonder. I was one. Vexa is me, the shadow I fled from. And you were the light in the darkness all along. The surprise deepened as the implant pulsed, projecting a final message from their mother, a holographic ghost, elegant and fox-like, her voice echoing with urgency. If you see this, daughters, the merge is near. But beware, the human guardian holds the key to true unity, not division. His heart, scarred by war, mirrors our own. Forgive, unite, and heal the rift. The image faded, leaving them in stunned silence, the air thick with the weight of destiny rewritten. Michael's mind reeled, the emotional paralysis he'd fought so long shattering completely under this cosmic irony. He'd spent years numb from destroying lives, only to find his greatest enemy and love was born from his actions. Lyra reached for him, her tail trembling as it sought his hand, but he pulled back instinctively, overwhelmed. How can this be? I caused this. Your pain, the wars echoing in your world, it's on me. His voice broke, raw with the surprise of self-reckoning, the twist turning hero into unwitting villain, yet potential savior. She rose, crossing to him, her naked form a vision of vulnerability and strength, her hands cupping his face. No, Michael. The stars conspired for this. The Unity engine isn't just tech, it's fate. Our bond activated it, bridging what was broken. Vexa isn't the monster, she's the missing piece, calling out in rage what I express in love. Her lips brushed his forehead, a tender anchor amid the storm. We must find her, merge, and end this not as enemies, but as whole. Elena's voice crackled over the intercom then, oblivious to the revelation but sensing the shift. Dad, Lyra, Reyes is calling a briefing, something about a surrender signal from the Enclave. You two okay in there? The timing was eerily perfect, as if the universe aligned. Michael met Lyra's gaze, the surprise evolving into resolve. The Armada wasn't advancing to conquer, Vexa was reaching out, drawn by the implant's activation during their night of passion, sensing the merge's possibility. They dressed quickly, the intimacy of moments ago, now layered with profound purpose. As they stepped into the corridor, Reyes met them with a furrowed brow, holographic maps swirling around her. The Enclave flagship just transmitted a white flag personal message for Lyra Voss. Claims it's from Commander Vexa, requesting parley. Says it's about completing the circle. What the hell does that mean? Lyra exchanged a knowing look with Michael, her tail brushing his leg in reassurance. It means family reunion, she said softly, the twist's implications rippling outward. Elena joined them, her curiosity piqued. Family? Wait, there's more to this? Michael nodded, pulling her into a brief hug. More than you know, kid. But it's going to change everything. The group moved to the command center, the drama escalating with each step. Holograms displayed the Armada massive ships like predatory beasts, but holding formation, weapons powered down. Vexa's face appeared on the main screen as they entered, her obsidian hair stark against her armored form, eyes like coals now softened with an unfamiliar vulnerability. Lyra's sister self. The pull I felt it last night. The human he triggered the sync. We must merge, or the engine will consume us both. The room tensed, officers murmuring, but Michael stepped forward, his voice steady despite the inner turmoil. Not here, neutral ground. And Vexa, I'm coming too. There's history we need to unravel. Her eyes narrowed in surprise, recognizing him from old battle footage. The destroyer of Hall's the Guardian. The stars mock us. But she nodded, the connection palpable even across the void. As preparations began, shuttles prepped, escorts arranged, the twist's power settled in. What Michael had seen as random chance was orchestrated fate, his war actions creating the split that now demanded healing through love. Lyra stayed close, her presence a balm, while Elena bombarded them with questions, her scientific mind alight. If you're split personalities, that's wild. Dad, you okay with dating a duo? He chuckled faintly, the humor a thin veil over the surprise. One step at a time. But inside the revelation fueled him, turning paralysis into purpose. The merge could end the wars, unite species, but at what cost to Lyra's identity? And if Vex's aggression dominated, what then? The shuttle launched, streaking toward the rendezvous, a neutral asteroid station in the border zone. Aboard, Lyra explained more, the split had been experimental, meant to safeguard knowledge during invasion scares, but the trauma amplified the divide. Merging requires a conduit, a bonded mind to anchor us. You, Michael. Your human resilience, your scars, they mirror our fracture. The weight of it pressed on him, surprising in its intimacy. Their night hadn't just been passion, it was the catalyst, their bodies and souls igniting the engine's true potential. Docking at the station, tension crackled like static. Vexa awaited in a vast chamber, flanked by guards but unarmed, her form a darker reflection of Lyra, taller, more angular, her tail tipped in black. The sisters faced each other, the air shimmering as the implant activated, neural fields linking. Michael stood between them, hands extended, feeling the pull, a torrent of emotions flooding him, Lyra's gentleness, Vexa's fury, blending in his mind like colors in a prism. The merge began, dramatic and visceral, holographic tendrils weaving, bodies glowing as psyches collided. Pain lanced through Michael, visions of wars from both sides, his losses, their divisions. But he held firm, humanity's stubborn spirit the glue. Surprises layered, Vexa's memories revealed Federation betrayals, profits from chaos, while Lyra's showed Zerathian hubris sparking the rift. And in the core, a final twist, their mother hadn't died, she'd transferred her consciousness into the engine, guiding from within. As the fields peaked, the three became one in a flash of light, Lyra and Vexa dissolving into energy, reforming as a single being. She emerged, transformed hair a blend of silver and obsidian, eyes swirling violet and coal, tail variegated in patterns of light and shadow. We are Leah Vexa, she intoned, voice harmonious yet edged, turning to Michael with a gaze that held both loves. Whole at last, thanks to you. The surprise rippled through him, she was neither, yet both, her form curvaceous and commanding, an evolution that stirred his heart anew. Elena, watching via secure link, gasped. Dad, that's intense. Reyes' forces stood down, the Armada dispersing as peace codes transmitted galaxy-wide. But the true power lay in the aftermath, Leah Vexa's hand in his, the engine now fully active, linking minds across fleets, exposing manipulations, forging alliances. Michael's emotional scars healed in the process, humanity hailed as the bridge builders. Yet, as they returned to New Terra, he wondered, was this love evolved, or a new chapter. The stars held secrets still, but for now, the twist had turned tragedy to triumph, surprise to salvation. As the shuttle pierced New Terra's atmosphere, descending toward the glittering spires of the capital under a canopy of aural lights from residual warp echoes, Michael couldn't tear his gaze from Lyra. She sat beside him, her newly merged form a mesmerizing blend of contrasts, silver threads weaving through obsidian hair, violet eyes flecked with smoldering coal, her tail now a tapestry of light and shadow that flicked with an energy both familiar and unnervingly new. The Unity engine's hum resonated faintly in his mind, a subtle link that let him feel the dual echoes of her thoughts, Lyra's gentle curiosity mingling with Vex's fierce determination, like two rivers converging into a mighty current. Humanity's role in this galactic pivot had elevated them. Overnight news feeds buzzed with tales of the Earth Bridge, fleets standing down across quadrants, alliances forming where enmity once reigned. But for Michael, the drama pulsed closer to home. This woman, this being he'd loved as one, now embodied two, and the intimacy they'd shared felt both preserved and profoundly altered. Lyra turned to him, her hand cool yet warm, a paradox in touch squeezing his. "The merge it's complete, yet evolving," she said, her voice a harmonious blend, Lyra's melody undercut by Vex's resonant edge. "I feel your uncertainty, Guardian. Am I still her, or something more?" The question hung heavy, heightening the emotional stakes as the shuttle touched down with a gentle thud. Michael swallowed, his scars physical and otherwise itching under the scrutiny of her gaze. "You're everything," he managed, but the words felt inadequate, like trying to chart a nebula with a child's map. Elena, seated across from them, broke the tension with a wide-eyed stare. "Everything? Dad, that's poetic. But seriously, do I call you Aunt Lyra now, or what? This family tree just got a plot twist worthy of a holodrama." The awkwardness amplified as they disembarked into the Federation's secure hangar, a cavernous space alive with technicians and diplomats scrambling to process the Armada's surrender. Reyes met them at the ramp, her cyber eye whirring as it scanned Lyra from head to tail. "Impressive work, Thorne. The engine's broadcasts have already quelled 3 border skirmishes, but we need a full debrief and medical scans on her." She gestured at Lyra, who stood tall, her curvaceous form accentuated by a hastily adapted uniform that hugged her like a second skin, the fabric straining in ways that drew lingering glances from passing crew. Michael felt a possessive surge stepping closer, but Lyra's tail now longer, more expressive whipped out instinctively, coiling around his ankle in a gesture that was equal parts affectionate and territorial. Reyes' eyebrow arched. "That's new. Careful, Thorne, looks like you've got a living lasso there." Elena snorted, covering her mouth. "Lasso? More like a cosmic cling wrap. Dad, you're tripping over your own feet literally." Michael stumbled slightly as the tail tightened, heat rising to his face amid the bustling hangar. The drama of the moment galactic peace hanging by a thread of neural tech clashed hilariously with the personal farce, technicians pausing their work to stifle chuckles. Lyra tilted her head, ears twitching in confusion. Is this humor? On Zerathian, such entwining signals readiness for deeper bonds. Her words, innocent yet laced with Vex's bold undertone, made Reyes cough into her fist, while Elena burst into full laughter. Deeper bonds? Oh man, Dad's face is redder than a supernova. Welcome to Earth Awkwardness 101. They moved to the debriefing chamber, a sterile room with holographic displays, projecting real-time feeds of dispersing fleets and jubilant crowds on distant worlds. But the drama escalated as medics hooked Lyra up to scanners, her body reclining on a table while probes hummed around her. Michael paced nearby, his mind a whirlwind. The merge had healed his emotional paralysis, flooding him with feelings long suppressed: joy, fear, desire. But now, with Vex's influence woven in, Lyra's presence felt amplified, her gaze pulling at him with double the intensity. "The neural fields are stable," a medic announced, "but there's residual feedback. Thorne, since you're linked as the conduit, we need to scan you too." He froze, the awkwardness peaking as they directed him to lie beside her on an adjacent table. Lyra's tail reached out, brushing his hand. "Fear not, my guardian. This is but a step in our shared path." Elena, observing from a chair, leaned forward with a grin. "Shared path. You two look like you're prepping for a couple's spa day in 0G'd. If they ask you to hold hands for sync purposes, I'm filming it." Michael shot her a mock glare, but the humor eased the tension as the scans began, lights dancing over them like fireflies. Yet, drama lurked beneath. The engine's exposures had unearthed buried scandals, Federation officials implicated in war profiteering, Zerathian elders hiding tech abuses. Whispers of backlash filtered in via comms, heightening the stakes. Not everyone celebrated peace, especially those who'd thrived on conflict. As the scans progressed, an alarm blipped, a rogue signal attempting to hack the engine through Leah Vex's implant. Reyes barked orders, security teams mobilizing, but Leah Vexa sat up abruptly, her eyes flashing with Vex's fire. It's a splinter faction, remnants loyal to the old Enclave ways. The room tensed, drama surging as holographic alerts showed intruders breaching the facility's outer perimeter. Michael ripped free from the scanners, grabbing a nearby pulse pistol. Elena, get to safety? But his daughter, ever defiant, snatched a scanner-turned-improvised weapon. No way, Dad. Family sticks together, especially when it's this weird. The awkward situation unfolded in chaotic bursts. Leah Vex's tail lashed out, disarming a charging intruder with a whip-like crack, her movements a blend of Lyra's grace and Vex's precision. Michael fired covering shots, his body shielding Elena as they retreated down a corridor. But in the frenzy, Leah Vex's enhanced senses overloaded, her bioluminescence flaring wildly. The merge, it's amplifying, she gasped, stumbling into Michael. He caught her, their bodies pressing close amid blaster fire, the intimacy of the night before flashing inappropriately in his mind. Timing, universe, he muttered, but her tail wrapped around his waist for support, pulling him off balance into a supply closet as enemies passed. Elena, squeezing in behind them, whispered, closet hideout. Classic. But if you two start making out now, I'm out. The humor cut through the drama like a laser, Michael suppressing a laugh despite the pounding heart. Not the time, kid. Leah Vexa, regaining composure, smirked with Vex's edge. Humans and their jests in peril, fascinating, but effective. From the cramped space they coordinated via comms, Leah Vexa using the engine to broadcast disorienting neural pulses, scrambling the intruder's tech. Reyes' voice crackled, back up en route, hold position. But the lead assailant, a masked Zerathian with cybernetic enhancements, burst through a vent, weapon trained. The merge is abomination, return the engine to purity. Drama peaked in the confined quarters. Michael lunged, tackling the foe in a grapple that sent shelves crashing. Elena zapped the intruder's arm with her device, while Leah Vex's tail coiled around the weapon, yanking it free. The assailant snarled, "You consort with the destroyer, traitor," revealing knowledge of Michael's past strike. The word stung, heightening Michael's inner turmoil, but Leah Vex's eyes blazing pinned the foe with a neural surge. He is Redeemer, not Destroyer, and we are whole. Security arrived then, subduing the rest, but the attack exposed vulnerabilities. The engine's power drew envy, and Leah Vex's dual nature made her a target for purists on both sides. In the aftermath, as medics patched minor wounds in a makeshift infirmary, awkwardness resurfaced with a vengeance. Leah Vexa sat beside Michael, her tail insistently curling around his leg under the table, drawing stares from recovering officers. "It's involuntary," she explained, a flush coloring her cheeks, a new blend of embarrassment from Lyra's side. Elena, bandaged but beaming, couldn't resist. "Involuntary? Sure, Dad, you're basically her personal scratching post now. Next thing she'll be purring." Michael groaned, but Leah Vexa tilted her head. "Purring Zerathians do not purr, but perhaps I can learn for you." The room erupted in muffled laughs, Reyes shaking her head. "Focus, people. We've got diplomatic summits tomorrow, can't have our bridge builder tangled in tales during negotiations." The drama intensified with incoming hails, ambassadors from multiple species demanding access to the engine, some with veiled threats. Michael's role as conduit placed him at the center, his human perspective key to balanced deployment. But personally, the merge's evolution brought awkward intimacies, Leah Vex's thoughts bleeding into his during quiet moments, flashes of Vex's bold desires clashing with Lyra's tenderness, leaving him flustered in meetings. One such instance during a strategy session, her tail brushed his thigh under the conference table, sending a jolt that made him spill his coffee. Elena, across the room, mouthed smooth, eliciting snickers from aides. Yet, humor bonded them, Elena teaching Leah Vexa Earth slang, leading to mishaps like Leah Vexa declaring, "This summit will be lit." To baffled diplomats, Vex's confusion adding a stern explain this fire reference. Michael found solace in these lighter beats, his laughter genuine, the paralysis fully shattered. As night fell over the capital, they retreated to private quarters, Lyra pulling him close. The drama swirls, but with you I find balance. Their kiss deepened, awkward only in its novelty, two essences in one form, yet perfectly attuned. But drama loomed larger. An encrypted message arrived, hinting at a deeper conspiracy, the Rogue Federation faction from the projections, pulling strings to sabotage peace. Reyes confided, they're embedded high up. We need proof. Lyra nodded, her tail flicking determinedly. Then we hunt. Elena chimed in, family road trip to the shadows? Count me in, but no more closet escapades. The night thrummed with anticipation, awkward alliances forging amid laughs and lingering touches. Michael's world, once numb, now overflowed with drama, threats from the void, intimacies across divides, humor in the chaos. As they planned the next move, he realized this was life reborn, not just surviving, but thriving in the stars' embrace, one tangled tale at a time. As the first rays of new Terra's sun pierced the capital's skyline, painting the spires in hues of gold and crimson, Michael stood on the balcony of their fortified suite, the cool breeze carrying whispers of a world on the cusp of transformation. Lyra's presence beside him was a constant now, her merged essence radiating a quiet power that blended Lyra's soothing calm with Vex's unyielding resolve, her tail brushing his hand in rhythmic reassurance. The night's planning had stretched into dawn, maps of shadowy networks unfurled on holographic displays, Elena's sharp mind dissecting encrypted files, while Rey's coordinated strikes against the Rogue Federation elements. The conspiracy ran deep. Tendrils of greed that had fueled wars for profit, but with the Unity engine's light exposing them, the noose was tightening. Michael felt the weight of it all, yet for the first time, it invigorated rather than crushed him, his once paralyzed heart beat with purpose, fueled by the bonds he'd forged. They launched the operation at midday, a coordinated assault on the conspirators' hidden lair, a cloaked orbital station masquerading as a research outpost. Michael piloted the lead shuttle, Lyra at his side as the engine's conduit, her neural fields amplifying signals to jam enemy defenses. Elena monitored from the command center, her voice steady over comms. Dad, incoming drones, evasive maneuvers, and watch that tail, it's distracting the company pilot. A chuckle escaped him amid the tension, the humor a lifeline as lasers streaked past. Lyra smirked, her eyes gleaming, let it distract the foes instead. With a focused pulse from the engine, she disrupted the drone's swarm, sending them spiraling into harmless chaos. Boarding the station was a whirlwind of drama, corridors echoing with alarms, guards in sleek suits clashing against their team. Michael moved with the precision of his war days, pulse rifle barking as he covered Lyra, who wove through the fray like a shadow dancer, her tail disarming foes with whip-like strikes. They reached the core chamber, confronting the ringleader, Admiral Harlan, a grizzled human with eyes cold as deep space, his uniform tarnished by betrayal. Thorne, he sneered, holographic evidence of his schemes flickering around him, you think exposing us ends this? Wars built empires, peace is weakness. The words struck at Michael's old scars, but Lyra stepped forward, her form aglow. Weakness? Unity is strength, Admiral. Feel it. Activating the engine fully, she linked minds across the station, forcing Harlan and his cohorts to confront the pain they'd inflicted, visions of shattered worlds, grieving families, the true cost of their greed. The Admiral crumpled, not from force, but from the overwhelming empathy, his empire of shadows dissolving as confessions poured forth. Federation reinforcements arrived, arrests swift and decisive, the conspiracy uprooted like weeds from a garden. News spread like wildfire, humanity's hero, aided by a Zerathian amalgam, had brokered true peace, the engine's bridges mending galactic rifts. Celebrations erupted, crowds on new Terra chanting Michael's name, aliens from distant quadrants hailing Earth as the heart of the new alliance. In the quiet aftermath, as medals were pinned and toasts raised, Michael found solace not in accolades, but in the simple moments. Back home, the forest woods where it all began now bloomed with hybrid flora from Zerathia, a gift from Lyra symbolizing their union. Elena, ever the bridge between generations, teased them over dinner. So Dad, planning a cosmic wedding? Hope the vows include in tales and in health. Lyra laughed, a sound rich with dual harmonies, her tail entwining Michael's under the table. Perhaps. But first, let's explore the stars together as family. As months turned to years, Michael's life flourished. The emotional paralysis that once gripped him faded into memory, replaced by adventures across galaxies, diplomatic voyages where humanity's grit shone, romantic escapes to Zerathia's floating citadels where Lyra's love enveloped him in ways profound and playful. Their bond, born of war's scars and fate's twists, proved unbreakable, a testament to resilience. Elena pursued her xenobiology dreams, often joining them, her humor the spark that kept their worlds alight. In the end, as Michael gazed at the stars from their home, Lyra in his arms, her tail a gentle anchor, he realized the greatest victory wasn't in battles won or empires toppled, but in opening his heart to the unknown. Humanity, fuck yeah, not just conquerors of voids, but weavers of connections, turning paralysis to passion, division to destiny. The cosmos stretched infinite before them, a canvas of wonders, and together, they stepped into its embrace, forever changed, forever whole.